The life of billionaire Adrian Montgomery was the kind most people could only dream of. A sprawling mansion perched on the cliffs of California, sleek luxury cars lined up in his driveway, a private yacht that sailed into the horizon. He had it all. But behind the towering walls of his lavish estate, there was something money couldn't buy: trust. And soon, Adrian would realize that the person he trusted the most was the one he should have feared all along. After losing his beloved wife Evelyn, Adrian spent years in solitude, his only real company being his two trusted employees: Samuel, the sharp and observant butler who had been with him for years, and Oliver, the quiet yet strong presence in the mansion. To the world, Adrian Montgomery was untouchable, a man at the top of his empire. But inside, he was just a man longing for something real, something that no amount of wealth could provide: companionship. Then came Isabella. She was everything Adrian thought he needed: beautiful, kind, and full of life. She swept into his world like a breath of fresh air. They met at a high-profile charity event, and from the moment she smiled at him, Adrian was captivated. Within months, they were married, and for the first time in years, his cold, empty mansion felt like home again. The laughter, the warmth, the love. It was as if she had breathed life into a place that had long been drowning in silence. But happiness can be deceiving. At first, the changes in Isabella were subtle. Small moments that Adrian brushed off as nothing: a quiet tension in her voice, a distant look in her eyes, a sudden shift in the way she held his gaze. Then came the real signs. The late-night phone calls she quickly ended when he entered the room, the vague explanations, the way she started isolating him from the very people he trusted. And then, the orange juice. One morning, as Adrian sat at the grand dining table, Isabella stood by the kitchen counter, her back turned to him. He watched as she poured him a glass of fresh juice, her movements careful, too careful. And then, just for a split second, he saw it: a tiny flick of her wrist, a small pinch of powder dissolving into the glass. Adrian's heart pounded. Had he imagined it? Was his mind playing tricks on him? Before he could say anything, Samuel, standing in the background, stiffened. His voice was calm, but his words carried a quiet urgency. "Sir," Samuel said, his eyes locked on the glass, "I wouldn't drink that if I were you." Adrian glanced at Isabella. She smiled sweetly, the same way she always did. But now, that smile felt different. Forced, calculated. His fingers hovered over the glass. If Samuel was right, if what he had seen was real, then the woman he had given his heart to wasn't just keeping secrets, she was trying to kill him. Adrian's hand trembled slightly as it hovered over the glass. His eyes flicked between Samuel and Isabella, his mind racing. Was this paranoia? Was Samuel mistaken? Or was the woman he had trusted with his life truly capable of something so sinister? Isabella tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Why aren't you drinking, darling?" she asked sweetly, taking a seat across from him. Her voice was smooth, almost too composed. Adrian forced a smile, carefully setting the glass down. "I'm not feeling too well this morning," he lied. "Maybe later." Something flickered in Isabella's eyes, but it disappeared just as quickly as it came. She reached for his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I hope it's nothing serious. Maybe you should get some rest." Samuel remained still in the background, his jaw tight. Adrian could feel the weight of his stare, the unspoken warning behind it. He had known Samuel for years, long enough to trust his instincts. If Samuel had seen something, Adrian couldn't ignore it. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Adrian tried to act normal, but the unease wouldn't leave him. Every time Isabella looked at him, every time she smiled, he felt a chill run down his spine. Was it always this way? Had he just been blind to the signs? That night, as the house fell silent, Adrian found himself lying awake, staring at the ceiling. He replayed everything in his mind: the warmth of their early days, the slow, almost imperceptible shift in her behavior, the moment she dropped something into his drink. Had their entire relationship been a lie? If she was capable of this, what else was she hiding? A quiet knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. He sat up, his heart pounding. "Come in." Samuel stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. He hesitated before speaking, his voice low. "Sir, I need you to listen to me carefully." Adrian nodded, bracing himself. "I've been watching her," Samuel continued. "I didn't want to believe it at first, but there are too many things that don't add up. The phone calls, the meetings with people you don't know about, and now this." He gestured toward the untouched glass of juice on Adrian's nightstand. "She's planning something." Adrian swallowed hard. "But why?" Samuel hesitated. "Money, control, or maybe it's something worse." Adrian rubbed his face, trying to process it all. "We need proof," he said finally. "If I confront her now, she'll just deny everything." Samuel nodded. "I agree. I've already reached out to someone. Raymond Hart. He's a private investigator, one of the best. He's looking into her background." Adrian exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and dread. If Isabella was hiding something, Raymond would find it. The next morning, Adrian played his part. He kissed Isabella on the cheek, exchanged pleasantries, and pretended nothing was wrong. But every moment felt like walking through a minefield. Every touch, every word between them was laced with unspoken tension. Then, late in the afternoon, Raymond called. His voice was grave. "Adrian, you need to hear this," he said. "I found something about Isabella." Adrian tightened his grip on the phone. "Tell me." Raymond hesitated, as if unsure of how to say it. "She's been funneling money into offshore accounts under a different name. And that's not all. There's a property registered under that alias, completely off the grid. Someone has been staying there recently." Adrian's stomach dropped. "Who?" "I don't know yet," Raymond admitted. "But I have a strong feeling it's someone close to you." Adrian's mind raced. Someone close to him? Samuel? Oliver? Or was there someone else in his life he hadn't even considered? As he processed the information, a soft voice behind him made his blood run cold. "Who are you talking to?" Adrian turned slowly, finding Isabella standing in the doorway. Her expression was calm, but there was something different in her eyes, now. Something dangerous. He forced a smile, slipping his phone into his pocket. "Just a business call." She stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "You seem distracted lately." Adrian swallowed the lump in his throat. He had to. Be careful. One wrong move, and whatever game Isabella was playing could turn deadly. But one thing was certain. He wasn't just dealing with a deceitful wife. He was dealing with a master manipulator. And if he didn't uncover the truth fast, he might not live to tell the story. Adrian felt his pulse quicken, but he kept his expression calm. He had spent years in boardrooms, negotiating deals with some of the toughest minds in the world. He couldn't afford to crack now. Isabella studied him, her gaze sharp, as if she could see the thoughts racing behind his eyes. Then she smiled. "I just want to make sure everything's okay," she said softly, stepping closer. "You've been distant." Adrian forced a chuckle. "Just work stress," he replied, slipping past her. "I think I need some fresh air." As he stepped onto the balcony, his mind raced. He needed to act fast. If Isabella suspected anything, she could change her plans, or worse, accelerate them. His phone buzzed again. A message from Raymond. "Meet me now. Urgent." Adrian made an excuse about an impromptu meeting and left the house. As he drove to the secluded location Raymond had sent him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to be revealed. When he arrived, Raymond was waiting by his car, his face grim. He handed Adrian a file. "This isn't just about money," he said. "Look at this." Adrian flipped through the pages. Bank transactions, travel records, hidden properties. It was worse than he imagined. But then, his eyes landed on a photograph. It was grainy but unmistakable. Isabella wasn't working alone. Standing next to her in the picture was Oliver, Adrian's trusted business partner and lifelong friend. A wave of nausea hit him. "Oliver," he whispered. "Why?" Raymond exhaled. They've been planning this for months. Your assets, your company. Once you're gone, everything falls into place for them. Adrian clenched his jaw. Betrayed by the two people he trusted most. He had been playing defense, but now he needed to strike first. That night, he returned home and acted as if nothing had changed. But in the background, he made his move, contacting his lawyers, securing his accounts, and alerting the authorities. The next morning, he invited Oliver over for breakfast, knowing Isabella would be there. He watched them carefully, looking for any sign of guilt. And then, as they sat together, he dropped the file onto the table. Silence filled the room. Oliver's face drained of color. Isabella didn't even flinch. Instead, she exhaled slowly and leaned back in her chair. "So, you know?" she said. Adrian nodded. "I know everything." Oliver opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the sound of approaching sirens cut through the air. Within seconds, the doors burst open and officers stormed in. Isabella stood, her composure slipping for the first time. "Adrian, wait! It's over," Adrian said firmly. As they were led away, Isabella shot him one last look. Not of fear or regret, but of quiet calculation, as if this was just another move in a game she had yet to finish. Adrian exhaled, feeling the weight lift off his shoulders. He had survived. He had won. But as he watched the woman he once loved disappear into the distance, he couldn't shake one final thought. Had he ever truly known her at all?